Hello, Amanda. Welcome to Hello Momma. It's so good to see you again.
It's so
been
good to see
a few years.
Yeah.
So we were just kind of trying to remember when the last time we saw each other was.
It was someone's launch event for something at Ferris Wheelers.
Yes.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, the panel podcast. It was Jen Hill's podcast.
Yes.
Yeah, that was the
Who I
last
still
time.
follow.
Yeah, I don't follow her. I haven't
She
heard
just
from
kind
her.
of chilling and has kids. And
Oh, she has more than one kid?
I think she has two.
Oh, wow.
Maybe I made that up.
Well, she needs, if she's listening, she needs to bring the podcast back. 'Cause I loved that podcast.
Yeah,
it was so
fun.
good. Yeah. And she was such a great
She's
host.
fun.
Yeah.
And I think Elena Davies was there.
I think,
Is
yeah,
that
she
right?
was there.
I love her.
Oh, yeah. That
She's
was
fun.
such a long, I want to say
It's a
that
hot
was
minute ago.
that pre-COVID? No.
No.
It was definitely post-COVID.
Like 2022.
Yeah.
I wasn't pregnant or anything. So
Yeah. Babies were not in the horizon
No.
for me.
No.
Well, for those that don't know, you are the CEO and founder of Dallas Girl Gang and Boss Vision Con, and you're a co-founder for a marketing company called The
Yes.
Playbook.
Yes.
Awesome.
Playbook marketing. Yeah.
So you are a busy woman.
Yeah. I know. Sometimes people are like, do you want to like take a break? Like, do you need to
Do you take breaks?
I do.
Okay, good.
We're in major conference season, so currently no breaks. Although husband and I going to Arkansas to visit his family for a while, and then we're leaving the child there and gonna go on our own vacation, and then we'll come back and get him.
That is so needed.
It's gonna be awesome.
Yes.
I'm very excited.
We take advantage as much as we can to have these little, like, whether it's 48-hour trips or just a day.
Yeah.
You need it.
Last summer, we did a staycation in Fort Worth and just left my son with my parents for like 4 days.
So how old is your son now?
He's 2.5.
Oh, wow.
He'll
How
be-
is that going?
It's honestly, I love it.
Yeah.
He's so psycho, but I love being a boy mom. I love being a mom. I love seeing like, oh, this is what my husband and I, like 1 + 1 = 2. And that's him.
It's so funny how you start seeing like your little personality traits in this little human being. So
it's very independent, very creative. And he is so funny. He's so funny.
oh, good.
I love it.
He's so cute.
Thank you.
I know. We're both like dying over our boys.
I
I love
know.
being a boy mom too.
Do you?
Yes. I mean,
Okay.
first of all, I never thought I would be a mom to begin with. It was kind of like never in.
Never a thought.
Well, I think it did. It was a thought at some point, and then it wasn't, and then I was kind of open to it, and then a few months later, it was a beautiful surprise, but I wasn't planning on it. But again, it's been wonderful. It's like the best thing that's ever happened to me, and it's extremely rewarding. It's exhausting, it's challenging, but it's truly, there's nothing like it. There's nothing like it.
I remember hearing these things you just said from friends pre-kids, and I was like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
You know, and I always wanted to have kids. It took me a while to warm up to the idea of childbirth. Just in general, like being a mom and also being like self-employed and being a business owner. That is, I'm risk averse, I guess. It's somewhat. So I guess I was like built for it. I don't know. But now that I am a mom, I'm like, everything they said was right.
Yeah. You know, when
Everything.
people are like, oh, you'll never feel love like this, you know, when they put them on your chest and it's like, yeah, right, whatever. And then it happens and you're like, oh, now I get it.
It was amazing. Although my labor was like 17, 18 hours. And so by the time he got here, I was like, oh, God.
Yeah.
And I was kind of like about to pass out. Like I was so done.
Well, so let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah.
And then we'll get into like your businesses and stuff.
Yeah.
So your birth story. So you were in labor for 17 hours. Were you induced or was it? Okay. Yep. And so I was induced also. So
tell me your experience.
So overall it was fine. I think my experience went
Hospital?
a little, hospital. Where it got a little challenging for me was, one, the reason why I got induced was because my doctor was going to be around. She was going to go on vacation on my due date. And so my induction date was just 5 days before my due date. He was already ready. So it made sense. I was like, it's only 5 days. We should be fine. And I wanted her to be there. But she wasn't, because she had to go. She had to leave. It was taking so long that she was like, I got to go. So I have plans for dinner. Literally, she's like, I have dinner plans. So I'm going to go. And I was like, great. Luckily, the one that delivered my baby was absolutely incredible, and made I mean, she gave me like New York vibes. I don't know if she was from New York, but she was just kind of like, she had this really dark humor. At some point I was like pushing and she's like, oh, stop being so dramatic. And I'm like, what? And she starts laughing and she's like, you'll appreciate my humor tomorrow, which I did. So she made it very light. She was quick and it was honestly, I just pushed for 2 hours, but I was in labor for 16.
Yeah.
So it was a long day, or a couple days, I'd say. I got they broke my water. My doctor broke my water. And so she did say like there's a risk of an infection when we do this. And so it happened to me. And so I was a little sick and that was a little concerning with the baby, but he was fine. We just had to be in the hospital a little longer than we had anticipated. Where it got challenging for me was with the lactation nurses. They were just really, really not being helpful. And I was getting different information. I was tired. You know how it is. You're not there. And so by the time we had to leave, he wasn't latching. I wasn't making any milk. So I'm like, how am I going to feed this child when I get home? They hadn't they didn't even offer the option of formula until I brought it up to the last lactation nurse that I was crying. I was like, this is insane. I've seen like 5 of you. And no one has said anything. How am I going to feed him? So they gave me breast milk from a donor's bank. And then they gave me some formula. And she's like, just continue trying. And then she kind of explained the pumping process. She was like, it's a supply and demand thing. So when he's eating, you pump. So that made sense. No one had said that to me. I just didn't know. I didn't know. I had no idea.
Well, it's not something like you can research beforehand, but you never know how they're going to take to it. And then... Also, you're not going to remember.
No.
When you're like 24 hours later, you just had a kid and you're like, oh,
you're exhausted.
Let me pull up my notes.
Yeah. Let me read some light reading here. No, you just want to try and sleep as much as you can or just whatever. It's really overwhelming, especially during the hospital. And you're like, now I have to take this kid home and how am I going to keep it alive? Like, what do I do? So that was like the only challenging part. And I did try to breastfeed. He just wouldn't latch and I wasn't making a lot of milk. So I was able to produce I think a total of 15 ounces of my own. And then I was like, fuck this. I'm not going to be pumping at 2 a.m. No, formula it is. And he was a formula baby.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Okay. My turn. And I hate that for you. I unfortunately, I've heard that.
There's a lot. Yeah. It's unfortunate.
When my sister's kids and mine are 6 months apart. So I had mine and she had hers in July and she'll be 2 in July. And I remember being there. Any nurse talking about lactation was like, you just said this and and I didn't want to be bossy and tell her, oh, you should do this and this. Cause I'm like only 6 months ahead of her in motherhood.
Right.
And so it was just super frustrating. And at one point, and she had a C-section. So she's like totally different ball game, trying to recover and figure out everything. And my mom and I remember like, it's this game of like, do I hold my tongue or do I advocate and step in? So we had to do a little bit of that, but, and they, anyway, so, my son, I had him late January.
Oh, I didn't realize he's a January baby. Mine is too. January 6th.
He was January 26th, 2023, 1/26/23. I have to remember his birthday when I call for stuff. And he was, I think my due date was the 20th. And so I probably will not go back and haven't gone back to my OBGYN that I saw. Okay. I have a lot of thoughts on this, and I don't even know what the answer is for like if we have a second child, like Lord willing. But she was only there right after I got induced, and then showed back up when I did my final pushing. So not a fan. Yeah. Wasn't super interested in her after that. But she said, hey, let's induce. And I was like, he's only like 2 days late.
Yeah.
I should have pushed back more, but first time mom, didn't know, thought, oh, doctor knows best. I should just listen, and I'm trying to make sure I do the best thing for him.
Correct. Yeah.
So I was like, I want to wait a few more days. So she let me. And then we induced, and we were supposed to induce at 8 a.m. They call me. We get up at 6:30 because we have to go 30 minutes down the road. Get up. They call and say, hey, we're full. We got to move you back to noon. I'm like, well, right now I'm already awake.
Yeah.
So I kind of go back to sleep and then whatever. And then they're like, great, yeah, come on down.
Mm-hmm.
Well, then we get put in a triage room for 4 hours.
Oh, no.
And I'm still awake. They induce, start my IV, and I can't get comfortable because I'm in this Harry Potter bedroom closet.
Yeah.
Like, so uncomfortable, and it's cold. Like, just not
ideal,
the vibe. I have this picture that I took in my, like, gown robe, and my hair was still, like, cute. And I was like, and then after that, I was like, screw it. Like, you know, I'm putting my hair up, and I was going to try to do it naturally.
Yeah.
I really wanted to, but the induction, it throws you into almost immediate contractions.
Yeah.
And it's like, for me, it was about every 60 seconds.
Oh, my God.
Back to back.
Oh, did you get an epidural?
I did eventually. I couldn't breathe.
Yeah.
I was like, and I was only at like a 4.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, yeah, I don't think I can do this. I've been up for 14 hours already, blah, blah, whatever.
Yeah.
I'm exaggerating. But so the epidural took an hour to get there. So, and actually I didn't get like loud and scream and stuff like that. It was miserable.
Yeah.
It was pretty miserable. My water broke, and then the nurse told me it didn't, and that I probably just peed. And I was like, the fuck are you actually, what?
Yeah.
I was like,
No.
and so literally at one point I was like, my water was still breaking, and I was like,
I'm not peeing anymore.
do you want to come look? Because it's still coming.
Yeah.
And my husband basically was one of my nurses. They were short staffed. There was a stretch of like, I'm not kidding, probably 8 hours where there was one nurse.
No way.
In and out of my room.
Wow.
So they
poor nurse too.
Yeah, poor nurse. We had one who was pretty tough and like great, and then the floor was just completely full. And so like I remember my husband Zach held my legs for like 2 hours as I pushed at the end, and almost helped deliver Nash, my son. And so it was crazy, and it was a lot. And the weirdest part was like, they would put me on my side with the peanut, or they would like sit me up, and I would labor down for hours, like on and off and this and that. And then we would like push here and then stop and then push. And I was like, what are we doing? And then they were too nervous because he would decel when I would push, and my BP was like 160s. Yeah. It was bad. And so come to find out, he comes and there's a shoelace knot in his cord. So he was just under a lot of stress.
Yeah.
Honestly, in hindsight, if I had just pushed, you know, instead of when he was born back up 8 hours, if I could have just labored down and pushed for even 2 hours, I could have done it. But instead they drew it out. And at the end, my doctor was like, well, we might have to do C-section. And I was like, that is the one thing I told you, no way in hell. I don't want to do it if we don't have to. I said, can I please push? Like, why am I asking? Yeah. And so she's like, it's going to be a while. And I was like, I know that. I wanted to do this hours ago. Yeah. And so, and I wasn't all there. I couldn't like totally make decisions. And so anyway, Zach was helping with like a lot. It took a lot for him to not throw hands.
Yeah. Tanner was similar, because similar story to your OB. I saw her twice. So she came in at noon. I was induced on the 5th, but I came in on the 4th around 5 o'clock. So they give me that little pill to help with like contractions and all this stuff or whatever it is.
Which I think is the worst.
Yeah. I mean, now in hindsight too, like I do want to have another baby. I'm like, I'm just going to let it come naturally as if I can, avoid that, because it was just it wasn't the best decision. But again, we're new moms. We have no idea. You're depending on your doctor.
And you're like, oh, I guess they did it,
And it was like, overall, it was okay. But it was just kind of like, Tanner was like, oh, so we saw her twice. She went to her dinner plans. No one's checking in on you. There's only nurses checking in on the baby, which, of course, is necessary.
I understand doctors, you've got to probably float to other people. Sure. I get that. But, like, at some point, like, I don't know. I just don't feel like she even, like, built a good relationship with me. Yeah. Which I hope is not too much to ask for.
Right. I mean, they're seeing the most intimate, they're dealing with the most intimate parts of you.
The most important thing you'll probably ever do.
Yeah. So the least you expect is at least some, like, a little more compassion and support. Yeah, absolutely. So I do still go to her, but I definitely was like trying to get the woman that delivered as my new OB, but she's not taking new patients. And it's just convenient to have her. And it wasn't like terrible. I gave her the feedback. I said, hey, I don't think that this was the right decision. I mean, my baby's fine. I'm fine. But the whole experience could have been
was bad.
Yeah, could have been much better. And I counted the whole reason why I got induced was because you were going to be there and you weren't. And so I get it that it took longer than we probably anticipated. But
yeah, but then don't tell me that you're going to if you're not.
Right, exactly. Like, let me know that that's a thing, that it could take longer.
Like, oh, I have dinner plans, so I may not.
Right. And then breaking my water, I'm like, maybe that shouldn't have been the case either. Like, if you knew there was a risk of infection.
They just want to kind of move things forward on their timetable.
Yeah, to potentially deliver the baby. Maybe that was her intention, or just clear the room sooner. I don't know. I get it, but it was just a lot of stories like this I've heard, and it shouldn't be that way.
No.
You know?
And I've heard friends like they've had good induction stories. No problem. Sometimes for some people, like I will say this, once I got induced, and then once I got an epidural, I went from like a 3 to a 10 in like an hour. So like my body was finally able to relax.
Yeah.
But the problem was when I set it at 10 for hours, which is not great. And so anyway, and my water had been broken or broke for a while. Anyway, there's a lot I've learned. It's weird. A lot of my friends have birthed naturally at home or at a birth center.
Great experiences. Like one of my best friends, she's a nurse. She had her daughter at a hospital during COVID. Her mom couldn't come in. Her husband couldn't come in. Oh, no.
So that was terrible.
Yeah.
And then she had her son, the second one, naturally. And she was like, best decision I've ever made.
Yeah.
She was like, it sucked. And it was hell. But so much better of an experience than. Yeah. I don't know. So we'll see.
Yeah. Well, hey, being a mom is not for the faint of heart.
Yeah.
But
and then actually I enjoyed breastfeeding, just like last thing. I did. It was rough. It hurt, or I just got like really chapped and sore that first week.
What's it called, like mastitis?
No, I didn't. I just got really like, it was just raw.
Yeah.
It was just rough. Because he was really going after it, which is great. And I'm like, ooh, we're doing this. Yeah. And it was great. And I think I did it for like 8 months.
Good for you.
And then I was like, I have work. Like,
I can't do this.
I think I gave myself like 10 weeks maternity leave because self-employed and running a business is kind of nuts.
Yeah.
But
I wanted to get into that too.
Sure.
Well, hey, I mean, good for you for breastfeeding. I think for my next one, I'm definitely going to try harder because I missed out on it
now.
Exactly. I have more information. I know how it works. I know what I need to do more. And so I'm like, okay, I'm ready.
I really enjoyed it. I know that sounds weird, but
no, I've heard, every mom that can breastfeed, I have a lot of moms that they're like, it's amazing. Weird. It's the best thing ever. And I think I missed out on that. And I kind of want, if I do have a chance to have another baby, then absolutely I'll give it a shot.
Call me.
Yeah, I will. Please, I will. Okay, so let's go back a little bit with Dallas Girl Gang. So I'll tell you a little bit how I found Dallas Girl Gang. I had just moved to Dallas in 2018, and I was still somewhat new to Texas in general. I had already been living in Texas for about a year and a half, but I lived in Louisville, so not really
on the outskirts.
Yeah, so there was not much going on there. So it was just work and then my work friends, and that was pretty much it. So when I moved to Dallas, to East Dallas, Lakewood area, I was like, I need to start finding a community. I need to start meeting more people. And I was toying with the idea of potentially starting a podcast. And so I literally just said female group, or I don't remember exactly what I typed, but it was something along the lines of women's group in Dallas or something. And Dallas Girl Gang came up on Facebook. And I want to say, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, around that time, there were probably like 4,000 people in the group at that point.
That sounds about right.
Yeah. So it was
2018?
Yeah.
2018.
And so I remember being like, oh, this is huge. There's a lot of women here. And I started going to events. And through Dallas Girl Gang, I met Christiana. I met the girls from Her HQ and started going there. R.I.P. Her HQ.
We loved you guys.
I know. And then we kind of partnered. Eventually, we partnered with like your events, and through the company that I worked for, we did a lot of like swag and sponsorship and stuff. So we kind of like built a rapport there. Yeah. So that's kind of like my beginning of finding out about Dallas Girl Gang. But tell us a little bit about how it all started.
Man, that's such a fun story too. I love to hear that. I've heard a little bit of that before, but not all of it.
Yeah.
Grew up here in North Texas, went to a small school in Arkansas for college, met my husband, stayed in Arkansas for a couple more years, and then we moved back at the end of 2016. I was a full-time teacher at the time. I taught elementary music, and it was like starting over. My family still lived here. I was like, great. And then you kind of click with people at work, not always. And so I did and I didn't. And I was like, I was doing some like side hustle, like multi-level marketing at the time because everybody did. And I was like, I want to network. I want to find, friends. And I started a blog. And so I was like, I'm going to be a blogger. I'm going to be blah, blah, blah. And so found some events on Eventbrite or Google or Facebook. And I would go to stuff. And a lot of it felt what people would now say, like it gave me the ick of you walk in and you're like, I don't feel like I'm supposed to be here. Like people don't really seem interested in like talking to me or like getting to know me but through some of those events, I did meet some really cool people and connected with a few people. So I figured, and it became like 6, 7, 8 people. I was like, how do we all stay connected? Because we started to see each other at the same events.
Okay.
And so I started a Facebook group, and I was like, I remember it was like a Saturday in April of 2017. And I was like, let me just start this group. That's what everybody did back then. And kind of still do. And I was on Pinterest, and I was like, okay, I need some like photos for like inspiration. I need like a background photo or whatever. And I saw something that was like, support your local girl gang. And that's when that phrase was like super popular, of girl gang. Yeah. And which is already trademarked by the time I got to this. And so I was like, oh, what a Dallas girl gang. And I was like, I did my research a little bit, not really, but enough to know that it didn't exist yet. And so I was like, let's just call it that, run with it. Had no business intentions, had no business plan. There was no strategy. It was just like, this could be fun and I can do this. Like I grew up in church. I grew up in programming and events and putting on camps and conferences, blah, blah, blah. And so I was like, I can do this, like bring people together. And so it really caught on. I coined the phrase, you can sit with us. I trademarked that in 2019, and now it's like an officially federal registered trademark, which is fun to see people try to use. But it's also fun and really, really cool to be like, I have a trademark. And it just, again, like I said, it really caught on, and people really needed it. People really needed a community. It's very buzzy to say now, but there was not a community in Dallas-Fort Worth that was inclusive for women looking for friends, women looking to grow their career or grow their business. There were some pockets of people, like for influencers or real estate agents or like the Chamber of Commerce,
niche, or like
very niche, very that's just the word. Yeah. And so that's where I was like, there has to be a better way to do this. And now there's a ton of women's communities. You've probably seen, like there's stuff popping up everywhere, which is amazing.
But I will say that still to this day, Dallas Girl Gang is still the biggest one, I think, in this area. Because I've looked for, like, now that I'm in Fort Worth, I've looked for something similar, and there are a few. Like Fit for Mom was one. Yeah, but it's really focused on fitness. But I couldn't go to the classes once I went back to work because they're at a time that
9 a.m.
Yeah. Like, well, I mean, I could go, but then my work starts around 10. Yep. So I really have to be available. So, I mean, still to this day, I was looking at it, I'm like, do you guys have events in Fort Worth? Bring it to Fort Worth. Okay.
You're the fifth person in the last 2 weeks. And I get this all the time, but just really lately, people are like, so what about Fort Worth? Yeah. And I don't know, maybe I should do something with that, but it would just be a lot to manage. And like, it's like, who would do it? And how do we take care of the revenue part of that? And do I hire someone? Do I have a volunteer do it? Like, what do we, anyway.
Well, let's talk outside.
Okay. So maybe we should, because you and 5 other people would like team up and do it together. Down. I don't know. Anyway.
We'll figure it out.
And tons of our friends are out in Fort Worth, and like, unfortunately, a lot of Fort Worthians just drive to Dallas, which sucks, and I hate that. But like, one of my besties, Patrice, owns Hustle Blends Coffee in Fort Worth. Like, maybe I should just call her. Anyway, but it's just grown. And then I started business coaching in 2020 and scaled that pretty quickly. And then I quit my teaching job December of 2020, which was interesting. And bought a house at the same time. So I don't recommend doing both of those at the same time. My real estate agent was like, keep your mouth shut. Don't tell anybody you're quitting your job because we're using your W-2 to get the house.
Yeah.
And then I started a marketing agency in 2023 with a business partner, Playbook Marketing. And that's been going really great. We work with small businesses or corporate clients or nonprofits all over the country.
And now how many women are part of the Dallas Girl Gang community?
I think our Facebook group is like 47,000 something. And then, our social media is growing. Like I've been a lot more active on TikTok. In hindsight, I wish I would have hopped on a lot sooner, but I just didn't have the capacity, I feel like. That's grown a lot.
That's the hard part. I mean, now that I have this podcast and I love it and I love what I do. I love podcasting, but it's the creating the content part that I get completely stuck on. And sometimes I just don't really have the mental capacity to sit down and create content. I'm sitting in front of a computer for my corporate job. I then have a toddler to take care of. Then I have a partner to also, have time with. Yeah. And then by the time I do have the time, which is Bobby at night, I'm empty and I'm tired and I just want to watch Bravo. So it's really hard to manage it all. How have you been able to manage all of these businesses? You have very successful conferences once or twice a year.
Just once.
Once a year.
Just once.
And the marketing company. And you have a toddler and a husband. So how do you manage it all and make it look so easy? Because it does
look easy.
It does look easy. You make it look easy.
Well, maybe I need to peel back the curtain just a little bit on social media because it's a shit show a lot of the times. Yeah. Like our house is never super clean. Like, I know for a fact there's dishes in the sink, which dishes are my job. My husband and I decided a long time ago, pre-kids, who does what chores. Yeah. And so that's my job. But they're in the sink right now. We've been a little busy. I'll just, kind of break it down. My son goes to daycare full time. That's a huge blessing. To be able to afford that because daycare is so expensive. Yes. Really through the agency, through the revenue share that's how I'm able to afford putting him to daycare. We do have my family is around. My mom was a huge help in the beginning when he was first born because I had to go back to work and I was like, I kept him home for 13 months by myself, running the business. And 6 months into that is when I started the agency with my partner. Wow. So I was like, what's a little more chaos? It was a dumb idea, but good in hindsight. I'm glad. There's that. I mean, my husband is he is the ultimate unpaid intern. He has come to so many of my events. He has been my grunt work man. He built everything in my office. He takes my son when I need a break or when I have more work to get done, even after a full Tuesday of work. He's a full-time teacher. So he's working 7 to 4:30. Even on those days, he will take our son because I'm like, hey, I'm behind. I got to catch up for our agency, or I've got to work on conference stuff, or I've got to batch all this content, right? There's a part of me this year and him and I decided to go do this together. We create a lot of content together now. One,
I have seen that, yeah.
It's fun for us to do. It's funny. It's an outlet. We're both very creative in a lot of ways. He has really good ideas. And two, it's honestly there's so many opportunities to potentially monetize on TikTok and stuff. So why not? Yeah. It's fun. The opportunity is there. We're just going to go for it and try. And so I decided this year, I have become a content machine. Currently, I'm managing our Boss Vision Conference Instagram and TikTok, my personal Instagram and TikTok, the Dallas Girl Gang TikTok, and mostly our agency Instagram. it's kind of in limbo because we're developing and refining a course that we have. And then we really just are focusing on our clients. And a lot of our stuff is behind the scenes. That's a lot of content.
Yeah.
And some of those platforms I'm posting multiple times a day. So a lot of it is filming while I'm working, B-roll, doing big batches of it, reusing tons of stuff I've already used before, and doing it in the middle of my son eating dinner, or, you know, we're about to like pack up and go to the pool in our neighborhood. So like I've made it such a priority that like my phone is so full of content I haven't even used yet. It's a lot, but that's been the priority this year.
Yeah.
The other thing of, you said it looks easy. It's just not.
Yeah.
Like the business model that we have, a community-based business with events and, you know, a small membership, is, if you want to get into a business and make a lot of money, don't do what I'm doing. Please, like, don't think that this is the way you're going to become a bajillionaire. It's amazing and it is so rewarding, but our profit margins aren't huge. I'm able to pay myself a full-time salary, and I have like some contractors on my team. That is amazing. I find that to be a huge success.
Yeah,
especially
absolutely.
I've been full-time in entrepreneurship for 4.5 years. That to me is wild.
Yeah.
But it's still hard. Like, you know, especially since COVID, like partnerships are different, sponsors are different, events are different, so different. And so it is something we're constantly having to stop and evaluate and see what we do next. And yeah, I mean, I don't even know like what, it's been 8 years, which a lot of people are like, really? Like no one really knows that, because some people just have found us in the last 2 years. But it is not easy. I don't have some like aesthetic life like some people see on social, not of me, but like of other people. And my husband and I have just had so many conversations of making sure I'm still feeling good doing this, and that we're both still really aligned with the roles we've chosen in our marriage, in our home, and what we're responsible for, and what we're willing to do for each other and to support each other. And so as long as we're always aligned on that, we're good. And then if something changes, we talk to each other and say, hey, I need this, or I need this.
That's super important. One, sounds like you have a great support system, not only with your husband, but with your family.
Yeah.
So you have, because it takes a village, you know, and it's so important to have that level of support and those support systems in your life to be able to succeed and to really focus on the things that, at the end of the day, this is for your son. You know, you're growing all this for your family so that one day, hopefully, you can kind of just chill and provide them a great life, you know, that they don't have to worry. That's the goal for all, I think, for all parents.
Yeah.
How did you handle postpartum when you were running your own business? Like maternity, obviously you give yourself your own benefits. How did you handle and how did you decide how long you wanted to be on leave? Again, while managing your own businesses, because that's probably like, you know, when you work for a corporation, you have a set time, you can kind of just focus on baby. But when you're running your own business, you're probably still thinking about how am I going to make that next batch of income while I'm away you know, and then also dealing with your own, like, I don't know what experience you had, but mentally, physically, and learning how to be a mom while also running all these businesses.
It was nuts. What I did going into like, okay, I know I'm pregnant. What are we going to do? I was like, okay, what would a corporate job be giving me? How much money does that actually equal to? Now, what do I think I could do or accomplish in doing that? Previously, when I was a teacher, I actually probably wouldn't have got as much time as I gave myself. Self-employed. As a teacher, you don't get paid leave at all. And you don't get paternal support.
That's insane.
So you have to save your sick days or PTO. Some of it rolls over every year. Some of it doesn't. So you have to use it or lose it. So what women in education have to do is save their days year over year over year if they want to have a baby. And then if they take more time than days have been saved, they have to file for FMLA, and then they get 2/3 paycheck, and that's it, which is insane. So in hindsight, I'm glad I was able to do what I did for myself. Beforehand, I was still coaching, so I put a chunk of that into my business savings, and I knew that there was this big line item of this is to use while on maternity, and I probably used a little more than what I had actually saved separately. I had someone quit on my team while I was on maternity leave, like 6 weeks in. I had an event get canceled the day of while I was on maternity because they dropped the ball. And it was a bad hire in hindsight. And they were young and not paying attention. And that really sucked because it kind of ruined my relationship with the 2 brands we were working with at the time.
That's unfortunate.
And it's not like we lost a bunch of sponsorship dollars, but like, now I don't feel like those brands have the best picture of me, which is unfortunate. There were many times where I had to step in or something happened or like an opportunity came in and I'm like, I gotta get on this sales call. And I'm like 4 weeks postpartum, actually the 3 months after I had him, the people that I got on the phone with, of course, like the women that I met were, or had discovery calls with were really supportive, but the men were amazing.
Oh, really?
I
was about to say like were they indifferent?
No, any man that I had I had a call with, I think it was like the Dallas Benefits. I don't even know. And then they never emailed me back. But I had Nash with me, like on my hip on the call because he was 3 months old.
Yeah. And
he was like, I don't know how you're doing this. I'm so impressed with you. And I was like, yeah, you should be.
Yeah.
Like, thank you.
Yeah.
But it was really encouraging. I don't know. And so it was very interesting. If I could change one thing, I would say I would have saved more. And I would have consolidated my team or like somehow kind of foolproofed my team so that I really could be like 99% hands off.
Yeah. So, well, hey, there's always a lesson, but you're killing it. You're doing a wonderful job.
You're so sweet.
Really. And I'm really looking forward to like participating more in events with Dallas Girl Gang and just coming back to Dallas a little bit. Yeah. Now that I'm kind of getting back into
the swing.
Yeah. Into the swing of things. I don't think I'll fully be back, but we
also in Fort Worth. It's fine.
Yeah. But let's
talk about Fort Worth.
We will talk about Fort Worth,
okay.
But we'll take that offline. We only have a few minutes left.
Yeah.
So I want you to tell like moms that are, well, maybe this is for me. I am ready to get out of corporate America. Yeah. And I really don't know what I want to do. I'm not leaving anytime soon. I'm probably going to give myself another 2 or 3 years. But there's definitely like something in me that wants to do something different. I know there's a lot of moms out there that are either entrepreneurs right now or starting their entrepreneurial journey or thinking about it. So what are like the top 3 things that you would advise a woman and that's a mother to keep in mind when starting their business?
Something. One, everybody has some story to tell, some kind of storyline of, I'm so-and-so, here's my story. And then it's this unique through line that in the future, if you were to build a brand out of that, even not a personal brand, but let's say you start a product, right? You sell water bottles. Having that thought of, and even if you think it's boring, even if you're like, I'm not an interesting person, you probably are. Maybe have a little date with ChatGPT and tell it your life story and say, hey, tell me what's unique about me. What's my 2-sentence, 2-liner?
Yeah. Elevator pitch.
Yeah. Of me. I would think about like, what do you like doing and what are you good at doing? So if you're going to start a service-based business, if you're going to start creating content, TikTok shop, there's brands that have affiliate programs you could make bank with. Like if you're really not interested in like, building your own company from the ground up, like there are so many opportunities out there to find something you like, talk about it and make money. Like who cares? Yeah. You're just trying to build a better life for you and your family. So who cares potentially how you do that?
Right.
And then, I don't know, have a plan and a roadmap. The one thing I regret is not staying in my job longer. purely for, I really pushed myself. I was like, I'm done. But I think if I had stayed through the school year, through May, instead of leaving it December, I could have saved a little more money, eased into it, and maybe had a little bit more perspective, because after COVID, like, things just kept changing every year, every 6 months.
And it feels like they still change all the time.
It's still changing all the time. And it's like, are we going to war again?
Yeah,
Like,
I know.
Anyway, so, I mean, like, think about it. Don't quit too soon. Now, I think Gary Vee type people would be like, quit now.
Yeah.
But, like, and you still have time. Like, just because you're, I don't know, 36 or whatever. I just turned 33. I still feel like I'm 26, like, or 24. You have plenty of time.
Yeah. Sounds like the message is just be you and believe in your story, and
something will happen. You can make it happen.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, it was so nice having you on the podcast. Thank you so much. We definitely need to continue the conversation. I feel like there's a lot more to talk about.
You have my number.
Yeah. So we'll definitely stay in touch. But thank you so much for coming on the pod. And I wish you nothing but continued success with all your communities and everything you've built. What you've done is really, really special. And hopefully we can grow it into Fort Worth.
Yeah.
Well, thank you all for tuning in. We'll be back hopefully next week with some more fun stuff.
Thanks.
All right.